let's talk about Couture Coleman. That's the one I want to talk about first. I was wrong. Of course, when it comes to predictions, we don't know what's going to happen. All we're doing is playing odds. And one of the things I didn't like was how Randy was so highly favored, and I was worried about that. I was worried that that would get in his ear and he would not have sufficient respect for Mark Coleman. Turns out Randy Couture is a very wise, very mature man who is a professional. He's seen it all, and he knew that that was a danger, and he simply rejected all of those suggestions that were being made to him that was saying, this is going to be easy, you're going to walk over him. He rejected the temptation to be overconfident, and so once again, you don't vote against Captain America, and I stand corrected. Another thing that I didn't take into consideration as much as I should have, Mark Coleman has made a major shift in his training. He's now listening to someone else. I think it's specifically Sean Tompkins and possibly more, which is a great idea, obviously. And he's listening to other people as far as his conditioning training. He's also listening to other people as far as his striking and his strategy, where historically Mark Coleman has been I'm my own boss, I tell myself what to do, I don't listen to anybody. There's obviously a lot of downside to that. One of the upsides of it is he's got to prove himself right. So he goes out there and his ego's on the line because he didn't listen to anyone, he didn't take advice, and so he's out there trying to prove every fight that he was right in the first place. Whereas this time he's actually having to believe in somebody else, and so he either believes in them or he doesn't, but he's trying to prove somebody else right. Never as powerful as trying to prove yourself right. So this time in a post-fight interview he said, I was led to believe my striking is better than it was. So he wasn't saying, I'm confident, he's saying someone else was confident and I shouldn't have listened to them. Kind of shakes his focus, shakes his confidence. So it's an interesting shift that he made. I think it was the right shift, but he has to come to believe in what the other person says, so it becomes his own belief. Interesting little dynamic, but I thought Mark Coleman simply didn't show up as well as he did in his last fight against Stephen Bonner. And I think if he had of, things could have went the way of my prediction. But Randy Couture totally played it well, played it wisely. Mark Coleman didn't show up the way I thought he could have, and that's just unfortunate. But this is MMA. That's why they actually have to have the fights rather than just talk about the fights. We actually have to see what happens live. So that was a very cool fight. Randy, the natural Couture, once again Captain America, looked great, did a great job. Mark Coleman did not show up as well as I thought he could have, and there's probably a number of factors we could begin to look at to pull that apart. But I think the main thing is his confidence wasn't where it normally is as far as his self-driven confidence. And I think he had maybe a little bit of an adrenaline dump, like a beginner would. He seemed tired already when he walked into the cage and a little bit overwhelmed. So it's interesting. He had a lot of respect for Randy Couture, which is very wise. He said it was the most important fight of his life, which was very wise. But I think he put too much weight on it to be able to bear it, and he already was exhausted by the time he walked in the ring. So there you go. Randy Couture wins in UFC 109 Orlando.